Testing, testing. All right. We're rocking and rolling. It's your decaf coffee. Let's get right to it. It's another coffee with the Cowbell. I am your host, Ricardo Wilkins, host with the most, here to geek out with you on Teams. Make it quick tonight. I'm gonna jump right into it. Main thing I wanted to do tonight was a little follow up to Tuesday, which is, again, I'm continuing this little series on the basics of Teams, and I talked about file basics on Tuesday. And I'm not going to dive too much deeper into that, other than I just wanted to talk a little bit as I switch over here. Well, actually, what I'm going to talk about is different ways to comment in files. But before I do that, I forgot. This just arrived today. It's my new Microsoft Presenter Plus. Hot off the presses. Just a little geek jealousy for you there. For presenting during Teams, you got your, let's see if you can see that, your mute button, joining a meeting, your laser pointer, your forward and back buttons. So I'm going to be trying this thing out. Just thought I'd make you a little envious there. Anyway, let's move on. So let me switch here. I want to just talk a little bit about, if we're talking files, and not that I would call this basics, but you may or may not know that there's ways to add comments to files. You may or may not know, though, that those come in three different flavors. And for many of you, when I showed them to you, I think you might roll your eyes because you might think, that's too many places to have these comments. How will I know which one to use? And you'll just roll your eyes about this too much. I will just say, don't worry about it. In the natural course of working with others, usually it flows pretty easily. Your team members on a file are probably going to gravitate to one of them, especially if they've been using Office for a while. They probably gravitate to, as we'll see in a sec, the comments that are embedded in the file. Some will gravitate to Teams-based comments, and then there's another one I'll show you too. Anyway, don't worry about it. Don't get overwhelmed. It's easy. Okay, so I'll start with the one you probably know and love already. In fact, I'll just open this document here. Office has been around for decades, and many of us are familiar with the tracking or review type features, and we're familiar with this comment button. And I'm in basically the browser version of this Word doc, as opposed to the full-blown desktop, where this might look a little more familiar if you're a long-time user. But it is still the same concept. Either these buttons here, or the comments panel comes up over there as well. Now I will go ahead and open this in the desktop, so we can, for those of you who are more used to this, we can just be on the same page here. So this may look a little more familiar, that whole track changes concept, and this concept of the comments, right? You highlight something, you make a comment. Some of you may or may not be using the at mention in your comments to, for people to kind of call out a particular person on something. By having done that, this will send Nestor an email saying that someone has mentioned you in a comment or something to that effect. So the at mentions are good, because as opposed to Nestor having to stumble on this when Nestor opens this doc, he will get prompted about that
comment. So the at mentions are nice. But this is what we know or we're used to. These are comments that kind of live with the file. They show up when you open the document, things like that. Okay. And of course, so I'm in the desktop. I close that. I've opened it in the desktop, but of course it's still cloud. It's still connected to the cloud, such that those comments will still be reflected even though I'm now opening it in the browser. I'm calling it the browser even though you see I'm in Teams, but essentially it's the experience is the same. I'll prove it. Open in the browser. It looks essentially like it does when we were in Teams, right? And in all three of those places, the comments show. If I was a little more prepared, I would have fired up a mobile phone to show that things still work there as well. One day as you might imagine, if you've been watching anytime, I got a short list of things I wish I would improve in this little series, like some of my graphics, and I need to have a mobile demo environment ready. I have it and I know how to do it. I just don't have it ready for these. Anyway, let's move on. So we got comments there, right? Now this new doc 1, let's go ahead and get out of here. So we'll continue here. And let's go ahead and we'll close this. Okay. So new doc 1, it's in digital assets. And I just noticed that. Let me go back. I noticed that from the little breadcrumb trail here, if you can see that. So digital assets, channel, files. The reason I'm going back here is because let's say that new doc 1 is a key document for us as a team. Whenever that's the case for any document or Office file here, we might want to make it a tab, and we could do that here. Make this a tab. I could have also manually made it with the plus symbol, but we'll let this thing do its work. It has done it. It's going to show up here in a sec. There it is. Why do I do that with the file? Because my teammates can now come in here, digital assets web, one click, one more click, maybe two, to get to the document, as opposed to going into files and trying to find it. It's important enough, or we use it frequently enough. Let's make it easy to get to. So not only is it up there as a tab for convenience, you'll see it looks a little different when I'm here reading and or editing it. When I opened it before, it kind of took over most of the space of Teams. This one, when it's in a tab, is a little more contained. I still see channels and things like that. The other thing you might notice if you are really paying attention, I got a new button up here. So now, it's a little bubble. It looks just like my my comments that I just talked about. And, I can make comments here, but essentially what this is chat that is now connected to this document / to this tab. If I come back out to chat, you'll see that document, when I made it a tab, it got its own post and now has a chat thread related to that tab or that document. So this thread here, intuitively speaking, is a conversation probably about that document. And given that that's the case, it is very convenient that that conversation, as I'm reading and or working on a document, is one click away, so that I can both see the document as well as see the conversation that happened about it. It might be some decisions that got made about this or something like that. But for your typical user, one might get a little confused here. I want to make comments about this document. Should I be chatting about it here? Or should I be making these comments, which are still available, right? As you see, I've clicked that. I now have the document, the comments column, and a conversation column. And so one might get a little confused about that. If you, you might get confused. I'll just leave it at that. I would say don't, from what I normally see, either a team is all in on the comments or they're all in on the conversation. I don't see a lot of, anything can happen, but I don't see a lot of both in one document. Okay, but just wanted to call that out as a kind of what could be considered a kind of a peculiar way of doing comments. And to top all that off, as I get out of that, and let's go ahead and open this. Let's turn off those comments and let's open it in SharePoint. Okay, we got the same stuff. We got the comments. We don't have the conversation. That is team specific. So while the comments here will follow us whether we're in browser, Teams, whatever, that conversation is team specific. So that is one difference. Once you kind of get out of Teams, then the choice becomes a little easier. You don't have the option of having a Teams conversation or a chat about this here unless you're using the standard comments. But if I get out of here, did I click close? Let's go back here. What I'm trying to get to is the SharePoint library, and I could do it here, but let's just go to let's click here and open in SharePoint. I wanted the library because what I want to do here, 3 dots. I'll start with version history. If you're not familiar with that, so I did the 3 dots. Version history is usually on by automatically. It is keeping track of versions basically as people are making edits. Okay. And if you're paying attention, what you may notice is there is a comments section here. This is not the comments of that we just did in the file. It is not the comments from the Teams conversation. These are different comments. What it really should say, and this is old school SharePoint, so this has been this way for many years. It really should say check-in comments, because that's really what that is, and it is yet another place to tell a story about what's going on with this document. So if I do check out a document, what does checking out a document mean? And this one, okay, so it's locked. We'll use this one instead. It's locked because I was using it somewhere else. Anyway, what is checking out a document? In a nutshell, it is, instead of it being able to be co-authored in real time, meaning I've got it open, but somebody else can open it too. We can both be in a document working at the same time, watching each other's cursors move around. Instead of that, I am checking it out. I am locking it to only me. And basically I'm turning off that real-time co-authoring piece. I'm checking out is back to the old school. Let me do my part, and when I'm done, I'll check it in, and then you can do your part. Okay, so you can see the messages there that says that I've checked it out. And then when I am done, as you can see from those messages, or you see from here, I then check it back in, which kind of unlocks it again. But here is my opportunity to put a comment in at check-in. such that now you see that went away. And when I go to version history, it is now a part of that particular version of this file. So in this case, I could have this comment, I could have comments in the file, I could even have a conversation about it in Teams. So I know you're already rolling your eyes and saying that's too much. But again, if you're checking in and out documents, that is probably a very conscious decision by your team. This is you usually do this when you're kind of more formally managing that file. So again, you're not going to stumble upon the check-in, check-out comment. It's going to be a very deliberate thing that your team is deciding this file needs check-in, check-out enabled. But it still helps for my little story about here are 3 different ways to say things about a document. So I know you're rolling your eyes. It's okay. I can't help it. It is what it is. It's a lot of flexibility. The Teams lovers have a place to go. The Office lovers have a place, and the SharePoint lovers have a place. Everybody's happy. So hopefully you're happy with another Coffee with the Cowbell. Hopefully you can finish your decaf and then get some rest, because this has been Coffee with the Cowbell.